In the previous episode, we witnessed the miracle at Midway Island, where random events seemed orchestrated by destiny and supernatural forces. Some believe that an invisible hand of fate was behind this victory. David Hand's statistics also suggest that coincidences are merely events of probability, but is that really the case? In today's video, we will explore the magical intersection between consciousness and humanity to uncover whether everything in this world is arranged by an invisible hand or if it's simply the consequence of science. All the answers await you in today's video. The second type of coincidence is the alignment between consciousness and the environment, meaning our thoughts match up with real-life events. What does this really mean? A classic example is when you're thinking about something and then it happens. You just mention someone and they show up. You think of an old friend and soon after, you unexpectedly run into them. Or you're about to text someone and they message you first. However, there's a subtle difference here. Sometimes we notice these coincidences more because we're paying closer attention to certain people or events, giving the impression that they occur more frequently. For instance, when you have a crush on someone, it seems like you keep running into them everywhere. This phenomenon is known as the frequency illusion. When we focus on something, our brain tends to highlight these occurrences, creating a sense of coincidental alignment. The third type is the coincidence between consciousnesses. This occurs when two or more peoples have the sharing thoughts or feelings simultaneously, which is often referred to as telepathy. It's like when you experience a particular emotion and someone far away is feeling the same thing. Professor Beitman himself experienced this type of coincidence. One night at 11 p.m., he suddenly felt a choking sensation in his throat, as if he couldn't breathe. The next day, he learned that his father had passed away at 11 p.m. the previous night due to blood clogging his throat, causing suffocation. In other words, the son felt the pain his father was experiencing at that moment. During this period, Professor Beitman encountered another fascinating case study. A widow who had found new love was deeply concerned about whether her deceased husband would approve of her new relationship. One day, while visiting her husband's grave, she accidentally cut her ring finger on some grass. When treating the wound, the medical staff removed her wedding ring. The widow took this as a sign that she and her new partner could move forward. Some might say she was over-interpreting the situation, attributing a special meaning to the event and seeing it as a hidden signal. On the surface, it might seem that way. Because if someone doesn't care, doesn't observe, or doesn't reflect on what happens to them, such events will fade away unnoticed like everything else. But in reality, there are many things in the world have been known this way. If Newton hadn't wondered why the apple fell, he wouldn't have discovered gravity. If Archimedes hadn't pondered why water overflowed when he bathed, he wouldn't have discovered the relationship between volume and buoyancy. Perhaps this is why modern scientists still haven't fully grasped the essence of coincidence. However, more than 100 years ago, someone opened a new perspective from an unexpected angle to explain the mystery within. The founder of analytical psychology, Carl Jung, had a keen interest in coincidences as early as the 1920s. Jung observed many meaningful coincidences throughout his life. When so many coincidences occur, explaining them solely by the probability theory becomes unconvincing. Thus, he used the term synchronicity to describe the non-causal relationships between psychological states and objective events. The so-called causality is our conventional way of thinking, meaning that when something happens, it has a cause and an effect. For instance, when we first started making videos on mysterious topics, we hoped people would see them and follow us, and they did. This is a straightforward example of a cause and effect relationship. Simply put, causality describes the sequence of events. However, the principle of synchronicity that Carl Jung proposed is a non-causal relationship, suggesting it is a parallel connection. In other words, it's about how multiple events that aren't causally related occur simultaneously, Jung believed that synchronicity isn't merely a type of coincidence, nor is it limited to the psychology realm. When an internal, spiritual event coincides with an external world event, it's known as synchronicity. Essentially, what determines synchronicity or coincidence is meaning. This meaning arises from personal, subjective experience. Different events are interwoven together by this meaning, creating a relationship between internal and external worlds, the invisible and the visible, the spiritual and the material. It's not just about coincidence. Regarding synchronicity, one of Carl Jung's most frequently cited stories occurred during a therapy session. A young woman, one of his patients, had been undergoing therapy for a long time without significant improvement. During one session, she recounted a dream in which she saw a piece of jewelry resembling a golden scarab. In ancient Egyptian cosmology, the scarab was a symbol of rebirth. While discussing this dream, Jung heard a tapping sound at the window. When he opened it, he found a scarab beetle. Jung caught the beetle and presented it to the young woman, saying, "Here is your scarab." Jung explained that this indicates the potential to overcome obstacles and renew her life. In reality, the scarab-shaped jewelry in her dream and the actual scarab at the window aren't in a direct causal relationship. However, Jung attributed a special meaning to it and believed that the woman had broken through her psychological barriers, symbolizing her rebirth. Therefore, Jung believed that synchronicity revealed a meaningful connection between the subjective and the objective world. However, since synchronicity was a new term in the scientific community at that time and was used to explain certain mystical phenomena that science couldn't explain, Carl Jung faced significant criticism and was even labeled as a mystic when he introduced the concept. Jung, however, believed that synchronicity was essentially a special case of a non-causal ordered state. He posited that this non-causal order regularly exists and appears systematically. While it may seem random, it doesn't happen by chance. Thus, Jung speculated that it was based on some kinds of law or specific properties of the world. He also linked synchronicity to modern theoretical physics. He discovered that the universe, as described by modern physics, is actually a balanced and unified process, a dynamic network formed by interconnected elements. In other words, this world has an inherent order and structure, much like a network that connects all people and events. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest emperors of the Roman Empire, once said, "Everything is interwoven and the web is holy." This aligns with Jung's view. There seems to be a force in the universe that connects everything together. Modern physics has also discovered a type of correlation in nature that science can't fully explain. When quantum particles are split into two and travel in different directions, if one particle is affected by its environment and undergoes a change, the other particle, no matter how far away, will experience a similar change at a speed faster than light. This phenomenon is known as quantum entanglement. Carl Jung once used an example to illustrate this. Just as the human body possesses a universal structure that transcends racial differences, the human spirit also shares a common foundation that goes beyond cultural and conscious distinctions. Different spiritual development paths of humans all originate from the same source that can be traced back through every aspect of past lives. In other words, everything in the universe, both material and immaterial, shares the same roots. This explains how quantum entanglement from a microscopic perspective can help us understand why there is a mutual resonance between heaven and humans, why people can perceive certain coincidences and deeper meanings, and even a concept known as divine will. Even Einstein, who was not religious, once summarized synchronicity with a notable statement. He said, "Coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous." It's no wonder that after a lifetime dedicated to scientific research, Einstein turned to religion in his later years. We often separate the spiritual, mental, and material realms to understand them better. However, the concept of synchronicity reveals that these worlds are actually interconnected. The realm of thought and the material world influence each other. Every event in life, whether good or bad, big or small, carries its own meaning. When we shed light on the depths of our inner selves, let's try to understand and connect ourselves with the universe. perhaps we can realize that behind every event, there is a driving cause. The ancients often said, "When the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen." A person's destiny is determined by the blessings and karma they create. In our previous episodes, we also discussed the inevitability of the universe, so when we face difficulties, instead of blaming others, try to go with the flow of nature, follow the laws of the universe, and adjust our mindset, and listen to our connection with the universe. You'll discover that meaningful coincidences are everywhere. We often talk about how unbelievable certain aspects of Earth can be. In fact, all these unbelievable things boil down to one thing: the universe is too perfect. Based on modern scientific discoveries, if our universe were even slightly imperfect, if this coincidence were just a bit off, human life on Earth couldn't have endured. What do you think? Do you believe meaningful coincidences are just a matter of probability or destiny's arrangement? Have you ever experienced any interesting coincidences? Share your thoughts in the comments below this video. That's all for today's episode. If you found this video or our content on the Akashic Records channel useful, please share it with a friend who might be interested. And don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share so more people can benefit from our content. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.